Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Friendly Conversations with Veronica. Today we are going to be having a really interesting conversation, and I have a guest who is already here, and her name is Faith Ekekwe. I will be bringing her on now. I will start immediately. So do well to join, settle in, invite others, and let's start our conversation for today. Hello everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining. Okay. Reading. So hopefully you have fun and you get your questions answered.
Hi,
Hello.
Veronica.
Hi, Faith. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Nice
Trust you
to.
had a good day.
Yes, I did. You?
I did too, thank you. I'm so happy to
Thank you for joining
join
me
you.
today. Yes,
It's
same
such a
here.
pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. How have you been? How is your weekend going?
I'm working this weekend, so
Uh,
I don't want to say it's a good one.
well done.
I'm trying to beat capitalism. So
Yeah,
far, no luck. How about yours?
it's going well. It's going well, actually. So today we are going to be talking about your journey, and I actually just mentioned that we're talking about reading today, but I want us to start by introducing yourself, so you can tell us about yourself, and then I have a few questions here that I'll throw at you. But all of it is going to surround reading. The title of this conversation is actually the journey to cultivating a reading culture. So for those people that have been struggling with, incorporating reading into their daily activities, I think this would be like an eye opener for them, and they'll be able to use what they learned from this conversation to start reading easily, or to teach people about reading as well, just to encourage people and the benefits also. So, yeah, I'll just let you introduce yourself and then we'll start with the questions.
Hi, Veronica. Thank you once again. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And by the way, this is my first live, so I am very much excited. I'm not much of a talker.
Yeah. There's a first
All
time for
right.
everything. Don't worry. So second and third is coming.
Yeah, of course. So my
Yeah.
name is Faith. I'm a content writer. I'm currently moving to being a content marketer. And for most of my life, I have been reading. So I think I'll just keep it short. And
Yeah.
beyond reading, something else I like to do is traveling. And I think my love for traveling is sort of tied down to most of the reading I do.
Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that. So I do not say everything.
Yeah.
And I do not have
Yeah.
answers.
Don't let the cat out of the bag yet until we start getting into the main details. So I have a couple of questions actually, and it's going to be like from the foundation. We lay a foundation. I've seen people reach out to me in a few weeks and months ago, and they're like, Veronica, how do you manage to read? How do you manage to cover all the books you've been reading? There's someone that even came to meet me and said, is it that I don't work? That I don't have so much time? I'm like, I don't even have the time. But let's see, probably this conversation will make people understand more that it's actually possible. It just depends on your own what you plan, your own goals, and we'll see how you're able to also tell us from your own perspective, because I believe that everyone will have their own strategies that helps them.
Of
So let's
course.
learn from you. And the first set of questions actually that I have, it will be your personal journey. You said something about it that you've been reading all your life, but let us know, was there a particular time that you can remember, or was there a particular journey like travel that you mentioned earlier that you were on and you're like, I think I need to do something while I travel? How did your love for reading start?
So I think I read somewhere again, reading
Yeah.
that most you may not be able to remember all that has happened to you, but you would have epiphany at different parts of your
Yeah.
life. And for reading, the funny thing is that I cannot remember if there was a time I started reading,
Mm-hmm.
but a few things do stand out for me. I know growing up, I used to have people again. I think people are very, very important. I like that saying that no man is an island.
Yeah.
So I used to remember Uncle Said. Uncle Said was a mathematics teacher who lived
Mm-hmm.
down the street I grew up in. So
Okay.
one thing he would do for me was that he would give me newspapers.
Yeah.
So exactly. So this newspaper were not exactly fiction. They were not engaging, but it exposed me. So he would give me the newspaper and tell me, Faith, read this newspaper. When I'm passing back, we'll discuss. This was somebody who the age gap is so funny now when I think of it.
Yeah.
Our only similarity was that he could have conversations with me based on the newspapers he had read. So this was like something I can closely remember. Then there was somebody else, again, in the compound I grew up in, Papa Chibike. He was a fan of newspaper, from Punch, Daily Newspaper, Sun. At some point, I thought I was going to work at the Punch newspaper. Before I left secondary school, I had said that I was going to work through the Punch, because for all of the newspapers I read, the Punch really stood out. There was a way their columns were. There was this arrangement about it. So I just said, I was going to work with the Punch when I grew up. So these people would give me newspapers, and I would just read and read. I would read down to the obituaries. I would read change of names. I would just read. Most of the words made no sense to me, but thank God for dictionaries.
Yeah.
I also did read the dictionary.
Yeah.
Again, it was pretty much about just reading. I did not understand what I was doing at that time, but anything at all I could read that could keep me engaged. So that's like something I can remember about, this, I can cite this. I started reading at this time. I started reading at this time, and so on.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually. Thank you for sharing that. And I would like to encourage, sometimes some of us don't even have the opportunities where people will encourage us to read, just like the people that you've mentioned. But now that we are older, it's now our responsibility to imbibe that culture of reading into the younger ones, our children, our siblings, so that they can now be the ones that will be sharing their stories when they think back and say, okay, I remember that it was Veronica that introduced me to this and that. So let's also have that in mind. And then I'll go on to you talked about people. You talked about, did you face any challenge, actually? Because I know one major challenge with reading sometimes might be having access to the materials. But now let's focus on you mentioning having access to newspapers. But there are times where maybe the unavailability of light or power, and maybe someone else not encouraging you to read. What challenge did you face at that time, just as a beginner, while trying to start reading?
Okay, so in terms of people, there are two persons I can never forget. There was Auntie Chedo, and there was also Uncle V. Again, I had access, and I'm always grateful for people.
Yeah.
So again, these persons were much more older than me, but I don't understand how there was this level of trust. Maybe it was the goodwill of my mom. My mom used to sell on the street, so she was quite popular. So because they used to patronize, I felt by default they had this trust that I would keep their books. While I was in secondary school, there was Auntie Chedo. She was in the university at that time. I had not even dreamt of going to the university. So because my mom knew her aunt, so by default there was a form of relationship. And as soon as I found out that Auntie Chedo reads, from one book, she would let me go into her wardrobe, and I could borrow as much as 10 books at a go.
Wow.
When I think of it, this was a privilege a lot of persons did not have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like 12, 11, and somebody in her 20s trusted me that much with her books. So again, I'm grateful for people. I don't want to say I faced any challenges, but some challenges was that I didn't have enough money to buy. That's something. I was younger, I wasn't working, I wasn't getting allowances, so I couldn't buy. And it felt like 24 hours was not enough. I had to fit in my chores, my schoolwork.
We'll get to that.
So I feel as though when you are younger and you come upon books, you do not have enough time to cover up the kind of books you have. So I think I didn't have enough money to buy. I discovered African literature late. I don't want to consider it a challenge, but I think if I had found African literature much earlier, I would have done better as a writer. So I did a lot of Harlequin. I did Harlequin romance, Harlequin Blaze, all of the Harlequins up until I was almost 14 years before I found out I found out about African books.
Wow.
So those were some challenges outside.
So I was going to ask, what was your mom's take about while all this was going on? Like, was she just indifferent, or did she fall to one side of the fence about you reading?
I think when it comes to my parents, I'm forever grateful that my parents are easy parents. Because sometimes when I hear people even complain about choosing courses, this is like a very common challenge. So when people tell me things like, my dad said I must study this, it sounds very foreign. For my parents, it is, what do you want to do? We support you. When I left secondary school, I was saying I was going to study business admin. They asked me, are you sure you wanted to do this? I said yes. The next year I changed to English and literature. They said, are you sure you want to do this? So I had a lot of support. Of course, there were days where they would seize my books. My mom wanted to be sure that I was not reading books I shouldn't be reading at that age. So it was just once it happened, and I got notorious. I got naughty. I started tearing out the cover of my books so I could get away. Wow. So if I see those books were erotic and all of that, I would tear out the cover. I used to have Top Gun. There used to be Top Gun, one gum in those days. So when I was done reading, I would place it back and return it to the owners. So
wow.
desperate times call for desperate
measures. Wow.
So I know that's my dad never ever disturbed me. This it only happened with my mom, and I found my way around it. So I never had any problem reading. I was encouraged, even if not verbally. I know I was encouraged to read.
Wow, that's good. So please, I think people, it's very important as parents, as people that are watching, because now I don't know how many people would watch and the age bracket, but whatever place you fall, it's very good to encourage, like give the support at least, or even if you are not watching to improve yourself, you probably feel that it's too late, which I don't believe is. It's not late, but at least do not discourage your younger ones that are coming from, like putting up the reading culture. So I'll move on to the next one now. We've talked about the foundation, how you started reading, which is actually an interesting one. So now I'm going to talk about, you talked about your busy schedule. 24 hours is not enough. Someone came to my DM and said, Veronica, I share every month, I share the books I've read, and sometimes I mix it with audio and physical books. So I just want to know, what's your own technique? How are you able to incorporate reading into your busy schedule? What advice do you have for people that are struggling with reading or complaining that the time is not enough? That's why, or the reason they have is because there's no time for them to read. What advice do you have for them?
So when it comes to reading, I may be wrong, but I feel as though your love for reading would make you read naturally. Last month, a friend was asking me that, how do I feel when I read? So I asked her what was her favorite activity to do for leisure. She said watching movies, and I asked her, when you watch movies, how do you feel? She said she feels happy. I told her that is exactly how reading makes me feel. There is almost no time I am not reading. I cannot remember, at least I would have a book or 2 or 3 or 10. I have started reading. So I feel as though when it comes to reading, your love for it will naturally spur you to want to read it. But again, I'm not oblivious to the fact that not everybody have that luxury. Not everybody have the love for reading.
The natural
like said, exactly. Not everybody came into reading the same time I did. I've also had people reach out to me and say, "Oh, Faith, how do you read? I want to read." And it is always very funny because I know there's no one size fits all response to it. There's no technique exactly. There's no strategy that works for me that would work for you. I mean, you may come back from the office, you are tired, you've had a long day, and all you are thinking about is sleeping. But when I come back from the office, even if I am tired, I try to get in maybe 2 pages because it is natural for me. So I think one thing I would advise is that read what you like. If it is comics, you should read comics. If it is newspaper, read newspaper. If it is audiobook, just read what you like. If you've seen a movie, maybe let's say, for example, you saw Game of Thrones and you liked it, I would advise you try to read Game of Thrones. Read something you like, and just maybe by some luck, in quotes, it may be enough reason for you to want to go through the journey of being a reader. So read what you like. Don't try to read what somebody else is reading. There's a new book, there's a new kid on the block, book in this case. So I want to go the way everybody is reading. It won't work in the long run. Somebody had asked me to recommend some books. So I asked, what are your interests? And he said he doesn't mind, I should just recommend. So I said, that's not how it works. What I like may not be what you like. If you like maybe sci fiction, it may be easier for me to recommend something. If you like African magic, I feel as though African magic do manifest in books too. There are books that would manifest as
actually.
So it will be easier for me to be able to recommend something that would be in line with your person. So again, you will not lose interest, because that's the number one thing. So you do not lose interest. You do not go through the first 10 pages and say, "Oh, Faith, I don't understand this book." So tell me what you like, then I'll be able to recommend something in that line. So in the end, it will be like you are reading what you like.
Actually. So it's about doing what works for you, or at least starting somewhere, finding out what works for you, and then sticking to that. Do not copy others. Do not say, because Faith is reading this type of books, I also want to read it, and all of that. So I think another question that branched out from this one that you answered is, how are you able to cover the number of books that you read? Do you read at a particular time? Just the quantity of books that you read, how are you able to squeeze out time for them, apart from the techniques you used to read?
All right. So as much as I squeeze out time, I cannot still deny that the older I get, the harder it is becoming. Because the more responsibility you have, that means something is eating into your reading time. So you have to sacrifice something for something. Something has to give, right? So in recent time, I don't know if I've been having a reading drought. I wouldn't want to call it a drought, because I've had time on my hand. So I don't know what exactly it is, but I've struggled with reading recently. And a way I read is that I tell myself, Faith, just 10 pages. Truly, there's no interest, but just do 10 pages today. So if I manage to do 10 pages, before you know, something will interest me in the book. I want to find out what is going on next. I have gone beyond that 10 pages. So I tell myself, read in bits. But this is not always the case. There are days I finish 400 books within 400 pages rather. So it's not 2 days is the same. Not 2 days are the same. So if I'm having a hard time reading, if I'm having a hard time slotting in time for reading, I just tell myself, Faith, 10 pages. If you do 10 pages, you can go and sleep. If you do 10 pages, you can go and watch a movie. I just tell myself 10 pages. Once I get it in, I'm free. So it is like I've made a promise to myself, which which I am keeping to. So 10 pages.
Yeah, that works. And even this formula that I just mentioned, it's a way that you can even calculate how you can finish a book. So for example, when I pick a book, you can check how many chapters, can also be the pages that you check. And you're like, okay, in this month I want to read just 1 book, or in this month I want to read just 2 books. If you're reading 2 books, that means you have approximately 15 days. Let's just assume that it's a 30-day month. 15 days for each book. Okay, so if you check the pages of that book and it's about, say, 80 pages or 75 pages, and you're like, okay, I need to cover this book in 15 days. You divide the number of pages by the number of days you have. You know how many pages at least that you must read at least, so that you can meet your target. And you see that with that, you'll be able to meet up with the 1 book target or 2 books goal that you set for yourself. So I think that's another way that you can look at that setting formula and goals for yourself, especially if you are really struggling to complete a book or meet the goals you set for yourself in that month. So thank you so much, Faith, for that.
Thank you very much.
I actually relate to that. So let's go to the next question. What type of books do you enjoy, and how do you choose what to read next? Okay, you're like, I have a couple of books, I just finished it. Sometimes I think I'm like, what should I read next? And sometimes I wait till I'm done, but there should be a preparation you have towards what to read next. Or do you just set all your goals at the beginning of the year, like, these are the books I want to read? How do you plan your books?
Again, I sometimes books also find you. So I don't agree. I don't think I agree with by January when I'm writing down my goals, I'll now say these are the books I'm going to read. By the time writers start publishing and releasing books, that plan will scatter.
Yeah. I remember in January, actually wrote down some books that I wanted to. I even did a video about them, but I didn't follow it because in between some other books just came, and there's still some that I've not read. But yeah.
I don't think it will be possible at all, but then again, people are different. So when it comes to reading, books find me. I also find books. So currently, to be prudent, I am telling myself I'm not going to buy a new book. But the thing is that Oida Books, a popular bookstore here in Lagos, there's a sales going on. So I know I would break that ban by next week. So that's why I'm saying that I do not think that you can just make a rule. And when it comes to books have a spirit. So I agree. So I don't think I can just say, I will not do this, then I would follow through with it. It cannot work. So books find me. Sometimes I see people raving about a book and I am interested. Like for the longest time, I've been trying to read something by Sally Rooney. I've been seeing a lot of people leaving reviews on about her books. So I think I want to check something by her. And there's also Madeline. She wrote something. I can't remember the name. It has a golden back sort of. So these are books I see and I am interested, maybe because of the reviews or some other book reviewers they've dropped something very, very juicy about it. So I would lean towards it. Sometimes too, I find them. I go to bookstore, I go to thrift shop, I go to find books. So whichever exactly.
We're actually going to touch that as well. How you get your books? But yeah, it's fine. Exactly.
So I think when it comes to reading, books find me, and I also find books. I've lost track of the other question you asked. I know the questions came two in one.
Yes, I said, how do you choose your next read, and what type of books do you enjoy?
Oh, the kind of books I enjoy. I am a fiction fan. I swear by fiction. I believe in fiction. I believe in the fiction supremacy any day, anytime. And the funny thing is that I did not always start with fiction. As much as I find I can be condescending towards self-help books, those were the books that helped me for the longest time. Miles Monroe, John. There's a John. I can't remember his name now, but I read lots of self-help books. Oh my God, self-help Christian books. Between 2013 up until 2015, till I gained admission into school, I was reading self-help book. And again, I had this guy that used to supply me books. So the funny thing is that this guy he used to sell in a busy market. He used to sell food stuff in a very busy market, and he still found out time to read. So that's why I feel as though reading, the thing about reading is that if you love reading, your love will just naturally draw you towards it. Because when you go to this guy, people are waiting to buy gari, they're waiting to buy beans, and this guy will still read. And when I come, he will still give me, and he'll still find out time for me to come and discuss books with him.
Wow.
So I started with self-help, but now I swear by the supremacy of fiction, any day, anytime. I also do a bit of non-fiction, very, very interesting non-fiction. I do autobiographies. I recently finished Maya Angelou's 2 of her autobiography, and they're really, really good.
Okay.
Why now I know why the cage birds sing, and the other one are like essays. I cannot remember their name now, but fiction first, maybe non-fiction, and whatever comes after. So fiction anytime, any day.
Great. I actually also started with self-help, and then I tend to non-fiction, and then it's a balance now between fiction and non-fiction. But yeah, I started with self-help.
And something else I think about self-help is the availability. You know, if you're a reader just starting out, you cannot exactly choose, especially if you don't have the money for it. And we cannot deny that self-help books are readily available. You would find them with church members. You would easily find them around. I feel as though by default, it is a book. A book is a book at that stage. You do not have a preference. So you just lean towards it. So that's something else I wanted to cite.
Until you're able to now spread your wings.
When you have money, they said you do not know a man he has money. So when you have money, your true colors will come out.
True. Okay, thank you so much for that. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to develop a consistent reading habit? I know you've touched on it a bit, but I want us to now focus on that question. Someone is asking, I want to read, I really want to, but I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. What advice do you have?
Like I said earlier on, you have to read what you like. If you do not read what you like, you would still struggle. So if reading does not come naturally for you, I don't think it would be an easy thing to do. Reading needs your attention. Reading takes your time, whether I like it or not. Reading, you have to dedicate time to reading, the same way you do to learn a skill. That's like reading. Think if you are going to learn a new skill, how you'd have to give maybe 2 hours every day. That's like how reading is. So if it is not something you're interested in, you ask yourself, why should I dedicate my time to this? So I think you should read what you like, and something else you could do is audiobooks. So you could actually have on a headset while you are working, while you are commuting to the office every time. So it is like you are multitasking. Very, very easy. And if somebody is very auditory, I am more of a visual person. I like to see things. My eyes I'm more attentive when I am looking at things. So auditory may not work for me, but if you are very big, you listen to music a lot, I recommend you should really do audiobooks.
I agree. I agree. So it's usually a blend for me most times, because when I commute, sometimes I just don't feel like, maybe because of motion on the road, I'm like, I can't just focus on reading. So I use my audio, and then sometimes at work I use my audio, and that makes me even cover more books.
Exactly.
Because I find physical books slower for me. Like when I'm I'm more slow.
Exactly.
But when I'm listening, it's faster. I can actually combine them. I can be reading physical, maybe in the morning at home or during my break, and then during work time, I'm doing audio. So it's like simultaneous reading. So that works. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And something else about audiobooks is that it gives character. You are listening. It is like you are listening to a whole narration. You can hear the exclamation. I feel as it gives context. There's emotion in it. So I recommend audiobooks. It will be as though you're watching a movie, but without those scenes. So audiobooks.
Yeah, thank you so much. So before we continue, just because of new people that might have joined and are just not sure what we are talking about, we're talking about reading and how to incorporate the reading culture. And I have Faith with me. She's sharing her experiences, and we just have some questions that I'm showing at her. If you have any questions as well, please drop it in the comments, and I'll pick it up from there at any point in time so that she can attend to it. So we'll continue now with the questions that I have with me. Yes, so let's see. How has reading impacted you personally and professionally? Okay, and what do you think are the benefits of having a reading culture? What do you think, even for people that some people might be watching and they're like, this is not for me because I don't think I should read. What do you think they can benefit to? Probably it can just change their minds. And also, how has it benefited you personally and professionally?
So not to sell, so it should not be as that marketing reading, but I know things because I read. Like sometimes I'm not aware I know these things, but in
100%.
conversations, I just say something and I'm shocked. Oh, where did I learn this from?
100%.
So because I read, I know things. So when you read, you know things. So read today. Start reading today.
Yeah. So I can even share a
want to know-
personal experience. Like
Exactly.
there was a time that I read a book. I think it was a fiction. I can't remember the name now, but it's about suspense, getting someone that was there was someone actually that they were that was a suspect, and they were kind of tilting towards someone else. And there was a time where they talked about allotment. So it's like a murder case and unraveling a murder case. So they were talking about allotment, going to, and when I heard that word allotment, naturally I didn't know that the meaning was like having a small farm where you can like plant things like tomatoes, potatoes, things like that. So after that, after I read that book, I took note of that word. I knew that it's an allotment. And then when I started, there was a day I was going to work and then I started seeing signposts that was talking about allotments this way, and I was like,
it just comes alive.
I'm like, I've read this word, I've seen this word somewhere, and I know the meaning, and I was able to now have I had the context of what it meant, not in terms of a place, but in terms of like where things are planted, like a small farm, a small garden, and that just made sense to me. And there were a lot of things that I did not know before that even from reading I was able to just know them. And so I'm like, why should I stop? Why should I stop when I get to now communicate with people? Sometimes a random topic just comes up, and I'm like, I'm not blank. I have
make
like
contributions, however small.
Exactly. So it has a lot of benefits apart from the fact that it requires discipline. You have to, discipline yourself to read. You also will benefit from it. Okay. So thank you so much for that. Okay. So another question I have here is that what can be done to ensure that the importance of reading is preserved? Okay, like what do you think can be done to ensure that, we've already talked about the importance of reading, you get to know more. What can be done to ensure that reading is a thing and it doesn't just, die down and die out? Because I feel like a lot of people now are more going into the digital. They prefer to be on social media rather than, reading. I know there are other ways of actually gaining knowledge, but I feel like people are now tilting out of reading to other means of learning. How do you think the reading culture can be preserved?
So this may not be directly related to us, but yet again, it is still related to us. So I'm going to refer to something called catch them young. If you go to school in Nigeria, there's this culture of when people come into the university, you try to catch them when they are still fresh.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say something for those of us who would have children later. I believe in the whole culture of catch them young. As early as they're coming out, you should catch them. There's this lady I follow on Facebook, Emily Faye Jennifer. She has been doing this thing with her daughter, where as at 9 months, she started giving her graphic books. And the baby would just stare at the books, stare at pictures. And now the girl is currently 3 years and she has not stopped with it. So it may not be related to us, but then again, for the next generation.
Absolutely.
So because it is in a way, we are preserving. So catch them young. If you have niece and nephews, I do not miss out on an opportunity to advise a younger person to read. I would borrow you books. I would discuss books with you. I'll talk about literature books you are exactly. What literature are you reading in school? Oh, is it nice? Is it interesting? Is there a character you like? So I do not miss out on this opportunity to make them want to read. Then I'll tell them about something else I am reading. I'll tell them about something I have read before. I'll make it into a whole movie for them where they're also interested. They'll say, oh, Ife, do you have this? Okay, let me read, then I'll come back to you. So catch them young. If there are people within your environment, younger persons, I'm not saying there's no hope for us that are older, but we can really do a lot for those coming after us. And then as regards the whole digital world thing, I do not want to villainize some tools that are very useful, like in the terms of podcasts and audiobooks. Whether we like it or not, digitalization is happening. There's very little we can do. So just incorporate it again. Go back to digital books. It is a form of reading, even if you are not reading in the conventional sense. So those are some contributions I would easily say.
Yeah, but how about copying? Why I mentioned that aspect was, when you're looking at reading ebooks and reading on, honestly I don't fancy reading ebooks because I get distracted, and that's the point I'm trying to drive. So just to avoid distractions and all of that, how do you think? I don't know if you had experience reading ebooks, reading on your phones. How do you deal with that?
Even the best of us had that struggle. So even with my phone, normally I try to I try to rotate how much time I spend on social media. So if this isn't something that is important to you, you could actually turn off your data for a period of time. Since it's an ebook, you would have access even without your internet. I'm guessing since it's an ebook. So it could be as little as 30 minutes. You don't have to do anything so mighty. Don't target 2 hours. Do 20 minutes. Turn off your data for 20 minutes and try to read. So do it in small bits. Do it in small bits. Do 20 minutes. Do 15 minutes. Do 30 minutes. See what comes out of it. Turn off your data, please. If you do not turn off your data, there'll be one switch that will carry you away.
Notification thing and like I wanted to click on it. That's all. It keeps.
So please turn off your data if you are going to be doing lots of ebooks. Just do 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes a day again. 20 minutes a day for what you like, not just something random. 20 minutes a day for what you like.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me see if I missed any other question, because it looks like, okay, I think one more question that I would like to throw to you would be, now, how do you get your books? Do you encourage buying books, or you encourage going to the library to get books, or just exchange books? What's the best? Or you can talk about what works for you, and then maybe, or even if it doesn't work for you, what you think can work for people. Do you prefer buying books? Because sometimes I'm like, having a lot of books at home can just be too, make the house too stuffy, a lot of books and all of that. But sometimes I just prefer to go to the libraries because I'll be able to return it. But there are some books that I really want to own. There was a book that listening, I didn't want to buy it, but when I was like, it's so good, I have to buy it. So what works for you in that aspect?
So all of these three options you just mentioned, I've had experiences with them at different stages of my life. Growing up, when I was in junior secondary school, I discovered a woman who used to sell thrifted books at Lagos State University last year. So I grew up within the environment in Ojo, Lagos. So again, shout out to that woman wherever she is. Those are the people who made it possible for me to get books. So she operated a system where you could buy books. So when you buy, let me say for example, you buy a book for maybe 100 naira, for 150, 200 naira. So let me say you have 3 books you've gotten. This one now are yours. So when you are done, she will give you the option of coming back to swap these books. So the swapping system was like, you could swap books for 13 naira, for 14 naira, for 15 naira, for 17 naira. I think the highest at that time was 17 naira. This was like as far back as 2009, 2010. So you just know you have to do a lot of trekking, a lot of walking, a lot of not eating, save up your money. Then you have 200 naira. 200 naira meant you would have like 5 books to read, and what joy. So I've done the whole swapping. I did that for a long period. I would save up, buy a book. When I buy a book, I knew that one book could give me the entrance I needed to read up to 20 books. So by owning one book, I could swap. I tried to do with my peers for some time, where you have one book, then there's somebody in school who had a book you wanted to read. You give to them. But people got careless, so I stopped that method, and I was with that woman for a long time till I finished secondary school, 2013, 2014. Then I gained admission, and I found the joy of John Harris Library in the University of Benin. I almost died there.
The benefits of libraries.
Yeah, the gifts of libraries. I love libraries. So because it was a school library, I did not easily find out that I could actually, that was where I actually discovered African literature, like a lot of African literature. So because it was a school library, I did not know that there was a whole shelf for African literature. But I discovered early when I was in 100 level, because my major was English and literature. So by default, when they were asked us to go read these particular books, when I started browsing the library, I started seeing, oh, you could read this. So I was going to the library. I was going to the library a lot. I was going to the library with my school book, yes, but I was doing other things at the library. I was reading Sidney Sheldon. I would find Beyond the Horizon by, I think, Amadako. She's a Ghanaian writer. That was where I read most of Chinua Achebe's book. So I did the library at that point. Then I came into money. And I could now afford to buy books. So I've done the whole journey. Borrowed, I've swapped books, I've gotten from the library, and now I am currently buying. Currently I encourage a lot of people to try thrift books. If you live in Nigeria, you know books are not so cheap. I mean, one book can cost as high as 20-something thousand naira. There's a book I was trying to buy, and it's 20-something thousand naira for one book. So it is not always convenient to be able to buy. So if I'm going to buy 5 of such kind of books, that's like 100,000. So this is not little money if we're being sincere within the Nigerian economy. So if you can, you should explore thrifted books, but they are not always popular for African writers per se, because it will be hard for you to get Chimamanda book in thrifted as a thrifted copy. So if you ever find, thank God, but you should explore thrifted books. Something else, I think, if you find people who have books you like and you have something they want, you could actually propose it to them. But please and please be careful with people's books.
Be very careful.
That is a lot of money, because I would not want to give you my book, then you are bringing it to me somehow. I will drag you on Twitter. So please, if you ever find somebody like that willing to borrow you their books, careful with it. So these are like some methods. You can always get thrifted books. You can reach out to friends who are open to the idea of swapping books. You could also, there are people who will borrow you their books actually without you swapping it, but please, you have to be careful. So I get my books. Currently I'm buying thrifted, I'm buying new books. Swapping has not been possible in recent times. I'm a big girl now, so I can buy.
But are there any advantages and disadvantages for each of them, like based on the different experiences you've had with them? Are there advantages, or is there any particular one that you prefer?
If I have my way, if it is possible, I think I like the swapping system. If people are reliable, if I can have my way, and there's that woman she still lives where she does, I would rather swap my book. So if you are telling me if I have 2 books, I can just keep reading till the end of the year without spending so much. That's like the best system. But you cannot trust everybody. Why I will be careful with books? Other readers might not be that careful. So the swapping system is actually very good. It is cheap. It is much more efficient.
You can actually consider starting something like that. Maybe as
I've been thinking of it actually. I made a tweet on Twitter, and some persons actually started. They designed like a prototype of like an actual app where you could come with a book you have and you want something else, so you send out a request. I think I would go back and actually talk to those persons, because the tweet was that, buying hard copy books are crazily expensive. Are you sure we'll not start a trade by barter system for books? And a lot of persons, the tweet blew up more than I even thought.
It would be
so it got a lot of engagement. And I think, like you said now, it would be like something, if you can get a lot of trustworthy people who will be careful with books, this is something that could work. So
you should.
I think I would reach out to those people, hopefully.
Hopefully it works. I'll be so glad to know that it works. I think it would be like a way to encourage people to read more, especially if it's in their, within their reach. And okay, so is there any particular one that has a disadvantage, or because like I said, I feel like you are in your buying book era. Do you feel like I don't have so much space? Because there was a time that I wanted to stop buying books because of that. I'm like, it's just all over the place, and I know that I have access to them, but I can't read them all at once. I just prefer to go to the library, pick one, return them. If I find one that really interests me, I can buy it and then keep it, but not like buying. Do you think that's like a good excuse to not buy books, like just so that I don't have so many of them?
I think I don't know if that would ever be an excuse for me. I would rather throw out some other things and have space for books. But I think the one with the disadvantage, I would not consider it a disadvantage. It is more about opportunity. It is the money that's buying books is actually expensive. Like expensive in Nigeria. Buying hard copy books is expensive in Nigeria, where you have minimum wage at less than 70,000. So you are saying it is not so easy for somebody who is earning 70,000 to take out 20,000 to buy a book. This person has not removed. This person they've not calculated their transport and essentials. So buying books, I think that's like, it has a disadvantage in a way, but if you're an addict, it is not a disadvantage, because it is priority.
You find a way to
you will find a way to beat the addiction. I don't know if libraries have disadvantages, but libraries are not evenly spread across. They're not everywhere, whether we like it or not. Currently, I feel like the library that is operating very well is there's this library at Yaba.
You read
exactly. I haven't gone there. I think that would be my next.
I've been there once or twice. I can't remember.
How was your experience?
It wasn't bad, but I wasn't going there to go and pick books to read. I was just going there to prepare for an exam, so I needed a space to just concentrate and focus. So I didn't actually really browse through the books, but from a look of things, it was looking a bit small, maybe because of the area that I went to, but it was not to borrow books. So I really did not know how the system of borrowing and returning works. I just wanted to prepare for an exam, but it looks quite good.
There've been some renovations.
Okay, it's been a while actually. It's been over three years maybe now. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. So
I believe that I've gotten better.
Actually, So I think by next month I would go there. That is like the library I am currently aware that is operating. So libraries are not evenly spread that you can say, oh, you can just walk anywhere and find the public library and you have access. So that's also a disadvantage.
So for me, there's a very close library to me. I have about 10 minutes.
I want your life.
Maybe that's why I prefer it now. And they have an app, actually, when you borrow books and you have not finished it by the due date, you can just go to that app and say, I want to extend I want to extend the time that I want to keep the book, especially if no one is asking for it. So I just go on there and check, okay. And you can also go on there to see if someone else has the book that you need and request for it. Just browse through it and then go to the library, pick up, return. But you don't have to go there all the time, especially if it's just to extend, renew, and all of that. You just do that on the app. So it's quite
very convenient.
Yeah, very convenient.
Very perfect.
Maybe that's why I'm just tilting towards the library. But I still buy
towards ease and convenience. Sincerely.
Okay. Does anyone have questions? Because it looks like I've been enjoying the conversation. And someone confirmed and said it's been an interesting conversation. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Lima Graphics, for joining. If you have questions, please just drop it and I'm just trying to scroll through to see if we have any questions so that I don't miss anyone. But let me see. I think I've exhausted my questions, but I'll just take another look again and we can probably wrap up if there are no questions. I'll give time for that. Please drop your questions. And also this video will be up on both our pages after this conversation. So I would collaborate with you so that people from your own following can watch if they want to. But if you have questions, there's a time for you to drop your questions before we do like a final thought and wrap up. Okay, thank you so much for that. I think that it's really been an interesting conversation, and the conversation about reading is something that just sometimes people are not sure what stand to take. They're like, I don't think it's important. Someone might be like, I know that it's beneficial, but I really do not know how to give time. I really do not know how to, be consistent. That's another thing, consistency. So I think from this conversation, you can actually go back to watch and just go through the questions that we've tackled. If you have any more questions that is springing up from our conversation, feel free to reach out to Faith or reach out to me. I can reach out to Faith as well and ask your questions, especially if you're serious about starting, if you've not started before, or you just have a specific struggle that you want to be attended, you want us to attend to. Someone is saying, from a non-reader that has now made a decision to try reading a book this month. Well done. Okay. Great.
We have a convert. Our evangelism is going well.
It's going places. So that's actually a good one. You can start with just one book, even if it's audio, even if it's ebooks. Probably you're in that stage where you're not ready to buy books yet, or you just don't have the capacity to buy books yet. You can start with free books. Do you have, Faith, any website or platform for free books? And I know it's not advisable actually, because it's better for you to encourage the writers rather, because they've actually put in so much effort. But what I mean is maybe from friends, from when you mentioned that people around you would gift you or not gift you or give you books to read and discuss. It can even start with discussions, not just you reading first. So, but do you have any particular platform that can benefit beginners that want to read?
So there used to be Z Library, but I think it got taken down. I don't know the exact.
Is it like an online library?
Yes, it's like an online platform. You could get any book at all you wanted.
And it was free. It was
it was free.
Or free. Okay.
It was free.
Okay.
So when it comes to affordability, I'm very much aware that books are not cheap. That's why I always push for thrifted books. With 500 naira, you could buy a book. With 1,000 naira, you could buy a book. So please explore thrifted books. You cannot tell me you're a starter and you now buy one for 20,000. If you do not finish it,
it's a pain. You'll be like, I should even discourage you from reading.
So if you're going to start, look for thrifted.
I agree with that.
And when I say again, read something you like. One book I always recommend for anybody at all: Secret Life of Baba Shegi's Wife. Okay. That book never fails. Like no matter, everybody I've given that book to as a first timer, they affirm that this held my attention.
Yeah.
So in case you're looking for
have
recommendation,
I've not read it, but I should probably just pick it. I've not read it.
Wow. That is like, it has a lot of humor. You know, that's the thing about funny books. You do not realize that you've done 100 pages because this book is funny.
You want to know
so
what's
I recommend
next and
reading
what's
it every
next.
time.
Yeah.
So Secret Life of Baba Shegi's Wife. There's also I Did Not Come to You by Chance.
Okay.
Read something. Humor always work at every time. Whether you're listening to something, you're reading, you're watching. If it is funny, you want more of that. Is it dopamine release?
Yeah.
So I recommend read something humorous and buy it cheap. Buy scripted books.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Says that I enjoyed every second of this. Yeah, same here. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. So let's do the final words. We have about 10 minutes to 6, and the plan was just to do 1 hour. So thank you so much. I'm even glad that we have like few minutes just to probably see if questions will come in, and then just give a wrap up, general advice, random advice, and what do you think people should know, like apart from all of this conversation, because it's just, this one is just a conversation. It requires you to practice. It requires you to go back and say, okay, I'm taking conscious effort. I want to start reading. Exactly. What advice do you have for people that are in that stage, especially the beginners? They're like, I've probably seen this video and I want to learn, I want to read. How do I start? Where do I go from here? What's the first steps? Just general advice, or anything that comes to your mind.
One thing I'll keep reiterating is that it is only what you like that will hold your attention long enough. In addition to that, I think you could get a reading body, but a downside to that is that you may feel compelled. It might become like you have a taskmaster hovering over around you. So it is like it has both a good part and a bad part. But you might want to explore and see, oh, if you have a reading body, God, do you know when you have a piece of gossip and there's somebody who understands the gossip?
They're like, have you gotten to this page, or have you seen this?
You are relating something and you don't have to explain. The person just gets as you are telling them, do you know Bolanle? Yes, Bolanle. So that's like how a reading body is. So you could look for a reading body, somebody you could read with. So by the time you are done, you're even excited to read. You want to read very fast
because you know that you would review together.
Exactly. This person will give you insight you must have missed out. You also want to relate something you've read to that person. So
and probably just give a different interpretation.
Exactly, perspective from yours.
Exactly.
So that's the thing about reading. It is like, people, you get to see something you've read from different eyes. You would think, oh, you noticed this thing in this book, but when you read it, somebody else will be telling you, oh, but this was how I interpreted this. And because it is literature, you are both correct. So read something you like, get a reading body for accountability. A downside to it is that it might become like a task, but nothing good comes easy. So and again, I would not deceive myself into saying that reading can be easy. Reading is a lot if you don't like it. Reading can be tasking if you do not like it. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I forget, I think I have 2 main things to chip in, and the first one will be that you should look at it as a marathon. Like, you don't just want to start and stop. You don't just want to start, even when it's a bumpy road. Probably you picked a book, it doesn't work. Don't let it discourage you from just saying that I'm not going to read again because I found this one not worth it. Try again. So look at it as a long journey that you're going to keep, even when you stop, you start again, you try out that genre, all of that, and I believe that would work for you. Another thing is you can also consider small books. Sometimes the
bulkiness can discourage you. You would run away. Your first book cannot be a 400-page novel now.
I have an example here. So last month, I was able to, prior to last month, I was usually reading 4 books, but it was always a mix of audio and physical books. Okay, and that was why I was able to meet up with 4 books. But last month, there were these 2 books, and that's by Austin Kleon. I don't know if you've seen this. And
still
this
like an
one
artist.
as well.
There are 3 of it.
Yeah, I don't have the third one, but I actually plan to get it. So this one, they're actually just small, really small.
Very colorful, very perfect. You don't know you are reading, Seb.
Can you see? When you are reading it, like, you just be seeing pictures and you be seeing inscriptions and things that will just encourage you to see something. Right? So same with this one as well. And it took me how many days? The reason why it took days was because I was using my commute time. Like when I'm in the bus, and the bus would just be about 1 hour. I finished it, and before you know it, I was able to pick other books, and that made it for physical books. Yeah, rather than combining it with audio. Now, imagine that instead of picking something like this, that is so small, you want to pick something like this.
There's no way you would be. By the first 2 chapters, you would have most likely
exactly. You're already like, what am I doing here? So yeah, that can work for you as well. If you're a beginner, look for books that are really captivating. They get your attention.
Appealing books, true.
Yeah, and they're small, and then you can move on from there. That's another tip that can help you. So I think on that. So is there any other thing that we missed?
I do not think so.
Okay. Any questions? We have 5 minutes and then we'll wrap up. If we don't have any questions, we'll round up, because I feel like we've actually touched on different things. I was just hoping that we'll have specific questions, but it's also fine. Hopefully this has been really beneficial to you. If you have any testimony or how you were able to move from not reading to reading, you can feel free to share as well, so that it can benefit people. Or you can also comment under this video when I post it, and that would work as well. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Faith, for your time. I really appreciate that.
I had fun.
I did have fun.
I had such a great time. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining, and I'll see you again on another session of this program. All right, guys. Thank you, Faith. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Veronica.
Bye.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, bye. You too. Bye-bye.